Hi, everyone. This is Michael Dobbs, and welcome to a new installment of Forecast Effects with Paul Walsh. And today we have a very special guest with us. You know him from a previous episode, Mike Haydock. Mike is a chief data scientist here at IBM GBS. Mike is going to talk to us a little bit about the forecast for the rest of the year. Mike, take it away.
Glad to be here again, and thanks, Mike and Paul, for having me. I work a lot with time series forecasting, particularly using machine learning and optimization methods for our clients. In my research, I picked up these retail data and I used that for this machine learning. So it's super helpful. We report on this monthly. It gets followed by a lot of news journals like the Wall Street Journal. I've just sort of had a passion in doing this every month. As you can see in this first slide, my estimate for retail overall across all categories in the United States for 2020, I think it'll be down just under 3%. It's going to be really hard to recover from almost a near shutdown in April. But a couple of categories are doing spectacular. So that's not every category down, all at once. Things like e-commerce, building materials, liquor stores and grocery stores have just been rocking off the charts. So those things are super healthy. The ones that are unhealthy, things like men's clothing, almost completely shut down in the month of April. Jewelry stores were really hurt and people were just not going to department stores. And so the physical locations really changed. And I think one thing that comes out of this is new fulfillment methods for clients. So as you saw in a lot of companies, you could order online, you could drive up to their parking lot, pop your trunk, they'd throw it in your trunk. So instead of going inside, there's all these new methods of filling the sale that are taking place that I think are going to be super important as well. What I'm forecasting for back to school is a bifurcated back to school. The disease is still ramping up in many, many counties, and this is a very local school system set of decisions. I believe that they'll go back some blend of schooling at home and maybe showing up every once in a while at school. And a lot of places might just go with distance learning from home. And that means that clothing is not going to sell very well. Typically, this is the highest month for back to school children's clothing. And I just don't see that happening, but I do see it deferred. So if they start to go back in September, October timeframe, you might see a little bit of a surge in clothing. So what will sell is probably things like office products that you can use at home, consumer electronics, people buying PCs or extenders to their router, tablets like iPads. So I think that could be a very lucrative marketplace. Some of the things that I think they're driving these forecasts, and I see unemployment between now and the end of the year hanging around just under 10%. So I think that's a number that is going to overshadow. Consumer sentiment is the lowest it's been in probably about 6 or 7 years. It's coming back very tepidly. Savings as a percent of disposable income in the April and May timeframe, those savings were up around 33%. Normally, over the last 2 years, it's been in the 7 to 8% range. The more people save because of the uncertainty in the marketplace, the less they're going to spend at a retail establishment. Housing has been extremely buoyant, especially in the suburbs and in rural areas. So I think what you're going to find is some people leaving the cities and heading out to these rural areas. So that'll drive things like furniture sales, appliances, things like that as people refurbish their homes. And then I keep track of the volatility index that represents the S&P 500, how people in the options market feel 30 days in advance. So the more volatile things get, less people want to spend. And it just works the opposite. The volatility starts to go down, people will spend. And so right now it's starting to return to normal. On the chart that you can see now, I'm projecting third quarter. And again, the categories that are going to be up a lot are the e-commerce categories, building materials. I mean, if you look down the street, you've probably got 3 or 4 contractors at your neighbors' houses. People are fixing up their homes. They're spending more time there. I also believe that grocery and liquor store will continue to do extremely well. These are my own opinions, not necessarily IBM's opinions, but they do use our forecast as part of our outlook as a company. So with that, I'll turn it back to Paul. Thank you, Mike and Paul.
Thanks, Mike. That was fascinating and very insightful, and I think very valuable for a lot of folks. I'll make one point about the weather. We talked about this in a call a few weeks ago. I do expect that we're probably going to see a milder fall than we saw last year, and that will sort of underlay the headwinds that Mike just talked about. So it's kind of bad news, but we are expecting that by the time we get into late November, December, it'll most likely be much colder than last year. There'll probably be a resurgence in things like apparel. Anyhow, with that, I will end it. And as usual, if you've got any questions, reach out to either Mike or I. Thank you.